Hey friends, it's Jen with ChappyPlans. Thanks for joining me for this Try It Tuesday video. I am finally going to be scrapping my April break, so stick around. Hey friends, it's Jen with ChappyPlans. Thanks for being here. You can see I opened right up. I already decorated my title page for this little miniature album. I stamped Who, What, Where, Why from Ali Edwards. It's from an older stamp set, and the Miles and Miles Road Trip is also from that same set. I've already pre-selected and planned the pages because otherwise there's no way I'd be able to film this video. If I did that in real time, it would take so long. So this video is sped up to 4 times the normal speed. It took me about 2 hours to complete all of these pages. So behind the title page, by the way, this paper is from Ali Edwards' Q&A Storyteller Kit. And let's see, I've got a black label on the front from no, that's from Ali Edwards as well. So is the year, the 2025. And then now on the back page, I'm just putting down some double-sided tape so that I can adhere the vellum striped paper that I really love. Because I printed out a photo of Nora and her cousin in black and white because the colors were crazy. And I decided to back the little cards with the vellum just for fun. So that Q&A that I cut out comes from a 12 by 12 piece of paper that has a whole bunch of the same patterns, the oval and then the Q&A. So I originally wrote with the Sharpie paint pen. You'll see I go to select some paint pens, and the color I wanted was the Sharpie creative marker, but it didn't show up very well, despite what it says on the front of the packaging that it writes on anything. So I switched over to using the Posca. So it says, I wrote, "What do you want to do?" is the question. And then in brown Posca, I wrote "See Fiona," which is her cousin. So I said, "This is always the question when we're heading to Michigan. This is almost always your answer. You can't wait to see your cousin. Within a couple hours, she came to Grandma's and you two immediately went off to play. You're such a loving big cousin." And then I just kept it simple, embellished it with a couple of puffy stickers. And on the right, I have this 3x8. And by the way, most of these are outside the page protector. That's just the way I tend to scrapbook in an album, and I really like all the interactive elements. And because this is a smaller trip, I knew I could have, you know, chunks and layers and things and not have to worry. Oh, see there, I'm writing with the pen, and it's not showing up. It's kind of being soaked into the card. So anyhow, that paper is from, I think, the XO story kit from 2023 maybe. And I never really do any other type of scrapbooking besides travel albums and Project Life and December Daily. So I have a lot of leftover kits or pieces of kits from Ali Edwards. I'm doing my journaling with a Pigma Micron, and the font size varies, the nib size I should say, based on, you know, the amount of journaling I want to do and the space that I have to do it in. So anyways, onto the right side, I have a couple of pictures from the funeral. So we had to go out in April to honor my husband's grandmother who had passed. And ironically, the last 3x8 album I made was documenting last April, so April 2024, when we went out in April to celebrate his grandmother's 90th birthday. So it's just, you know, it's bittersweet, right? But she lived a very long life, very full life, and I learned a little bit more about her than I necessarily really needed to know. So I talk a little bit about that on the journaling underneath the swivel I created with these brads, these heart brads that I ultimately settle on, and underneath the picture of Grandma Carolyn and her floral arrangement, there's a picture of, we call him Uncle Scott, it's my husband's uncle, but his mom's brother, who is also a pastor and was reading his eulogy and kind of leading the service. And then I chose this paper in particular because of the quote, which is in the middle. It says, "So I close my eyes to old ends and open my heart to new beginnings." I thought that was a perfect sentiment for the memorial service. And then the bottom swivel photos are Nora and her cousin Sutton at Grandma's house after. And then the swivel photo under that is a selfie of Aunt Linda, who is my mother-in-law's sister. I had met for the first time at this event, unfortunately. But she was very nice. Not unfortunately because of her, but just that this was the first time we were meeting was unfortunate. So I wanted to include that picture, but I did not like that picture of myself. So one, I put it in black and white, and two, I put it on the underside of the cuter picture of Nora and her cousin. And I just talked about all of the things that took place at the service. And then moving on to the next page, I have some pattern papers that are, I don't even know, honestly, where this gradient paper came from, but it matches the quote paper that I'm going to use on the right. So I trimmed this photo down. It's of my husband's and his brothers, his parents, his uncles, and like step uncle. So I think I need to disclose that Carolyn, Grandma Carolyn, was a very interesting lady, and the husband who she was married to when she passed, I believe was her 6th or 7th, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry, I can't remember. I know. So, but one of the partners that she had was, his last name was Wessel, and he was, to Matt, the fondest memory that he's had of like grandparents was the Wessel grandpa, who was long gone before I came around. So their families remained close, and they came to the memorial service, which was lovely, and just a testament, obviously, to the kind of people that they were. He unfortunately did pass, and that is why Grandma Carolyn moved on to her whatever number husband was after him. So that portrait is some of the Wessels, some of the Loomis family, which is my mother-in-law's maiden name, and obviously, you know, my husband, Chapman. So I took these very old Pink Fresh Studio alphas and I spelled out Chapman Loomis Wessel. And that sums up that story. I felt like I had to explain it because otherwise you'd be like, what? And then on the bottom, I trimmed down another 3x8 card. The quote on the bottom says, "You'll have bad times, but it'll always wake you up to the good stuff you weren't paying attention to." That's by Robin Williams. And I thought that was a good sentiment as well. And it also left me room to do some journaling. So I used those same puffy stickers after I stamped the date at the top, and wrote about the memorial, talked about how it was 2 hours and there were little sandwiches and refreshments. And then we went back to the house, which is where this picture was taken in Matt's front yard. And then after those, all the like extended family left, we stayed behind and we had pizza and talked about future plans together. And then on this, you can see I'm working on the Let Go, the page that has a quote on it. It talks about letting go. That's just a placeholder for this other picture of the cousins, the Wessel cousins and the Chapman cousins together. And then I just stitched with embroidery thread this really pretty gold foiled butterfly onto the bottom. I thought that was appropriate for the sentiment for this particular story. I like to introduce hand stitching here and there because I like the texture. And sometimes I like to include flip outs and pull up and pull out and swivels and all kinds of little things here and there if I can add them in. It just makes it more fun for me. That's the most fun part of scrapbooking, in my opinion. Okay, so once I get that told, then I'm going to flip the page, and the page I'm working on now is going to act like a pocket. So I've got this pre-selected pattern paper. It is from Paige Evans. It's from her, I think, last year's travel collection. I can't remember what it's called now, but it was a nice neutral background, the blue grid. And you can see, like, for this particular, what I was trying to do was for these few pages, I was going kind of with a blue-ish color theme. I really love doing projects like this because I end up using my stash, and that feels extremely satisfying to me. I've had scrapbook stash items for years, probably going on, 6 years or 7 years. I know that's not a lot in comparison to folks who've been in the scrapbook crafty world for a long time, but I really am trying not to buy a ton of new products and just use, as far as scrapbooking goes, and use the papers and the things that I have, unless I see a collection that I'm like, oh, I absolutely have to have that. Like, or if it's like one of Ali Edwards. I don't count any of Ali Edwards' releases because I'm just literally obsessed with her products. So like anything she puts out, I'm like, yeah, add that to cart. But as far as like other businesses, I try not to purchase unless it's something I really, really, really want. So anyways, I forgot to put the Wessel on that picture, so I went back and pulled out the alphas so I could spell that out. I am in need of some more miniature puffy alpha stickers, so if you guys have any suggestions, please let me know, because I am obsessed, I should say, with puffy stickers, and I miss Paper Person's puffy stickers, and I've haven't found anything really that is filling that void, that sticker void for embellishments for my scrapbook projects. So let me know in the comments if you are aware of any awesome miniature puffy stickers. So anyways, now you can see I'm actually working on the next part of the spread, which is the next day. So I create this little pocket like I had mentioned. I'm gonna have to trim down the edges a little bit. And also, another technique you might have seen me using is a distress tool from Tim Holtz, just to add a little bit of texture to the pattern papers when I'm layering them on top of another paper. I just like the way that looks. Adds a little bit of dimension, a little bit of something. All right, so I decided to create this pocket here so I could add this larger photo of one of the installations at the Lantern Festival. It was really, really cool. And so I wrote Lantern Festival Happiness, or I didn't wrote. I used the alphas, again, older Pink Fresh Studio alphas, to spell out Lantern Festival, and then I pulled the Happiness puffy sticker is from Lovely Blooms collection from Pink Fresh. On the back of this floral photo that is going to get tucked into the pocket, I put out a little piece of pattern paper with the sticker that we purchased of the red panda. And I wrote, on Sunday we all met at the John Ball Zoo. I always try to plan a fun activity for Nora to do with all the cousins. Nora rode with Fiona, Matt and I rode with Lori and Graham. We walked the whole zoo. Not all the animals were out, but we did see red pandas, which is Nora and I, it's like our favorite animal. We also saw tigers, otters, snow leopards, and more. It was lovely. The lights weren't on, but the displays were still gorgeous. So it was pretty cool, and I actually have seen some pictures of what it looks like at night, and it looks so incredible. And we would have obviously preferred to do that, but with younger cousins and naps and all that, we were like, we weren't going to be pushing something that wasn't going to make sense for everybody in the family. So I have all these different photos, and I was trying to figure out a way to show all the photos from the day over, in this smaller sized album. And so I decided to create it over the course of the 2 pages, and then down the middle I would put photos that weren't going to really interfere with like the content in the photos, meaning like with them being split and hole punched, you're not really missing anything in the photo. I'm not punching through somebody's head or like a smile or something like that. They are purposely selected to be in that spot. And then I've got pictures of, Nora and her cousins in various poses throughout the zoo, looking at different exhibits, petting a goat. And the one swivel picture in the top right corner, I just decided, because I had an odd number of pictures, but also thought it made sense because it's Nora and her youngest cousin, that's TJ. And he's, he just wanted to hold her hand and walk, which was the cutest thing ever. So, of course, I had to get a picture of that. And the picture underneath is his older sister, Sutton. And so there's already, like, that bigger picture of Nora and Sutton from the memorial service day. So I thought, okay, we'll feature this picture and put Sutton underneath, because we've already featured Sutton. Just so, in my mind, like, I want to give, equal opportunity to everybody in the album, even though, like, I don't think my sister-in-laws watch these videos or anything, but, I just don't want to offend. I want to make sure I'm including everyone if I can. Okay. So that was a really fun page to make. I used an app called Diptych, and I put the pictures in the circle frame, and then I put them in print to size, and then I sized them down to 2 inches and used my 2-inch circle punch to punch them out. Okay, in the back, let's see. I've got this fun pattern paper from, it's actually a scrap piece from Heidi Swap. Color Story, I think. I think that's the name of the collection. And on the photo I'm featuring is this gorgeous selfie station spot, or not even selfie, but like picture spot opportunity, where it's got the name of the zoo and then these beautiful sculpted wings. So Nora's right in the middle. Of course, I wanted to feature that photo. And I didn't want to fold it or anything, so that's why it's existing sideways like that, and it's fine. I don't mind it being a horizontal photo in a vertical orientation. That's okay. So I had this sentiment from the Lovely Blooms die cut collection. It says "You are something magical," and I thought that made a lot of sense. And I end up taking like this chipboard frame and just cutting it and down and using it as sort of a border on the outside of the picture just to add something. I don't know that I love it, but it's down and it's just gonna stay there. So you'll have to let me know if you've ever done anything like this or even maybe been to this exhibit. It was beautiful. It was awesome. So I am going to, so the way this video series is set up is I'm doing as much as I can basically in one sitting and then editing it and then filming, you know, another section of the days that we were there and so on and so forth. So I believe that I'll probably be able to finish this album, or at least this trip. I might include more than one trip in this album, but we'll see, in like 2 or 3 videos probably. So anyways, back to what we're doing. The right side of this particular part of the story is a page protector. Wow, I'm using a page protector for once. And it's just 2 3x4 configuration pockets. So nice and simple. Just picked a couple of the larger photos I wanted to include. The frame there that says Grand Rapids Lantern Festival with the red panda behind Nora and her cousin Fiona. Then I just put the little chipboard rose stamp on there because it matches the left side of the spread. And then going with the flow, I also use the distresser on to distress that tag, like die cut tag, and a little label that says all the girl cousins got their faces painted, Nora got an axolotl. And then I just used a few of those enamel dots here and there to add a bit of texture. So yeah, this is a true stash busting video because it is so many different small businesses being used here and designers, colors. It's just the way my brain kind of works is I look at the photos I want to feature in the particular spread. Like by spread, I mean the 2 pages that are facing each other. So right now it's the photo on the left and then the pocket pages on the right. To me, that's one spread. And I like them all to look somewhat cohesive. And that I will try to achieve by either using embellishments from the same kit across all of the different parts of the story that I'm telling or the photos that I have. So in this case, it's using the embellishments from the Pink Fresh Studio collection. And sometimes it's a matter of using, you know, one particular color, even if the colored elements are not all from the same collection. Hopefully that makes sense. Excuse me. So, you know, this particular spread I don't think is the most cohesive, but it's fine. You know, I maybe should have selected a different background pattern paper. But at this point I was kind of just like, well, it is what it is. You know, the main point of the picture is the photo. And I think that that is still the focal point. I don't think necessarily that my, over embellishing habit that I have, that I suffer from, is taking over this particular part of the story. And yeah, I mean, so we have, in this video, we have the memorial piece documented, well, our first travel day, then the memorial, then, you know, now I'm working on the Lantern Festival, so the zoo day, which we were at the zoo all day, and then we all got dinner at a really fun indoor marketplace, which I'll talk about in a sec. So of course, you know, there's a picture of Matt and I in front of this giant dragon sculpture, which you can't see because it was just so tall. And but it's fine, it's a picture of us there, and I just wrote every day is an adventure with you, and kept the panda picture plain. I just loved it, so I didn't add anything. Then I decided to add in this envelope for fun. I just wanted a different element. You know, I got kind of tired of the outside the page protector, inside the page protector. I wanted something different. I also wanted something to hold the miniature story from the day about getting dinner with everybody. So we went to the downtown market in Ionia, which is like right, you know, Grand Rapids basically. And it's really cool. We try to go there whenever we have to meet up with cousins in that Grand Rapids area because there's so many vendors and something for everyone. And with Nora having celiac, it's, you know, a win-win for everybody. So, and then the kids, we can, you know, I included a couple of pictures that I got off the internet of the outside of the market and then the view from upstairs where you can sit, and we put like a ton of tables together and everybody gets their food and sits and eats and talks, and it's just really fun. And it was a great way to end the day. And that's when we said goodbye and kind of went our separate ways. You know, we drove back to the Lansing area, and then the other cousins drove back to Battle Creek, and then, you know, of course, one of the families lives in Grand Rapids, so they didn't have far to drive. And so it was just a really great, like, central point for all of us. And then there's a picture that I took of where Matt and I got dinner. And I did a little bit of journaling on the back of each of the photos, nothing fancy at all, literally just using my pen, and didn't even embellish them. I just paper clipped it together with the parking slip that I kept from parking in the garage next to the downtown market. And then those things are going to live inside this little pocket insert, which I've attached with a plastic attacher tab. I think they are from Citrus Twist. I've got a whole bunch of them. I've got a bunch of Ali Edwards ones. It just worked to use this particular one on this envelope. And then on the back side of the envelope is a picture, probably my favorite picture, of the cousins at the zoo, and they are standing by height, and it was the perfect photo op, and it just says, "How tall are you?" versus a wallaby. I wrote that in the little label sticker there because that's what the title is. You just can't see it. So that I could get the picture on the back of the envelope, I had to cut off the top. And then I am working on the last picture is Nora with, you could see I was using my grabby paint pen to write on the photo. I wrote axolotl face paint with an arrow, and then I just wrote on the label that she had Dippin' Dots at the end of the day at the zoo. And I wrote, "The best day. I wish I had another way to capture all the memories in an airtight container forever. I live for these days and always want more." And that was just kind of a way of summing up this part of the story. And yeah, and I thought that sectioning off, like the micro story of us getting dinner and putting it in this envelope, was sort of a really cool, fun way of keeping it all together. But also it's like tucked between the, you know, the pages of the event of this day, so it all kind of chronologically makes sense, at least in my head. So I am just about finished. I'm going to do a flip through. There's the title in real time. So a picture of Nora in the car on our way out, hence the miles and miles. And I don't know if you can tell, but that little puffy car has hand stitch embroidery behind it, which is supposed to represent like the track, the trail, the road that the car had been on. I thought that was kind of a cute little touch there. Again, using the brads to hide other pictures, and then the journaling underneath that. None of this is, you know, I always prefer handwritten journaling if I can. So if I don't have too much that I want to say in a small space, and so I will always pretty much go to that as my default. Just so you're aware, I know a lot of people prefer to type it out, but I like to write. I'm obsessed with pens. We know this about me. Okay. And then if you enjoyed this video, I would love a thumbs up. I would love even more if you're not subscribed, if you would consider subscribing. That would make me super happy, and I would greatly appreciate your support. And I don't know when I'll be back with another one, probably next Tuesday if I can get this worked on before then. And let me know your thoughts, your feedback, suggestions, all the things. Let me know if you have questions about products, because, you know, obviously, like I said, this was a huge mishmash of all the things in my stash. So I may have misspoke here and there, or I may have forgotten to mention a product or a designer or a small business. And I obviously don't want to forget that. But if you do have questions, just let me know in the comments or DM me over on Instagram. And I'll be happy to try my best to get that information for you. Otherwise, I will see you next time. So take care of yourselves, friends, and remember that you are enough. Bye.